Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching this Ag Forecast brought to you by Agrible, the makers of Morning Farm Report. Our software gives growers the insights to make the best decisions possible about their operations. Let's start by taking a look across the Corn Belt at where we got most of the rain over the last 7 days. We've been discussing how the West has been occupied by a broad trough while the eastern half of the country was experiencing a broad ridge. Basically, in between that, where we flow out of that trough into the ridge, we were going to be supporting a lot of lift in the atmosphere across a boundary that was going to be parked across this part of the country. And that is what drew us to the conclusions that this was going to see a very wet last 7 days. If you were under that ridge, though, over here in the eastern part of the Corn Belt, your only chance at any rain was going to be from a hit or miss shower or thunderstorm that kind of blew up in the afternoon heat. And I do mean heat. It has been very, very hot in the eastern Corn Belt, while the western Corn Belt, a lot of delay in harvest out here simply due to all of this precipitation. So let's start to take a look forward here. This is a map that was generated late in the evening on Wednesday, and it shows you the 24-hour temperature change. So basically by late in the evening on Wednesday, we can see the position of our cold front kind of sagging right in through this region. So Ohio River Valley stretching down toward Texas. And we finally broke away from some of this ridiculous heat that we've seen here in parts of the eastern Corn Belt, where we saw temperatures every day way up into the 90s. So we got to talk about this. How long is this cool down going to last, and what are we going to expect to see once this front kind of passes through? Now, that front didn't have much moisture to work with, and as a consequence, it didn't bring much precipitation through this area. By the time Thursday gets here, the broad front here is going to be stretching toward the southeast. It's actually going to help kick Maria on off, and I'm just so glad to see Maria go after it caused so much problems for Puerto Rico. And by the time we get into Friday, we see Maria is gone. The front has sagged south. We actually might even get a reinforcing shot of some cooler air before things change again. Now, what's going on down here in Texas? You saw Texas, New Mexico, parts of Kansas, Oklahoma looking wet, even in parts of Colorado. Why is that the case with these fronts pushing through with some drier air? Well, we got to take a look at the flow of the jet stream to really understand this. By the time we get into Friday, we're actually going to see what's called a Rex block setting up. Now what that means is this broader trough that's here just off the west coast builds into a huge ridge across the central part of the country and then a broader trough over the eastern Corn Belt. This is why we're cooler in the eastern Corn Belt, but this feature here has trapped underneath it a cutoff low. And it's the flow around this cutoff low that's going to be bringing the upper level support to produce the showers and storms over Texas, Colorado, Oklahoma, New Mexico, and that area. And that's interesting to watch because I believe this area, which has been very wet, is going to continue to see on and off showers and storms for at least the next 10 days due to the overall flow of the atmosphere. So let's kind of take a look at where we're going with this forecast. First, let's get through the next 4 or 5 days here. What you're watching is an animation from the NAM model showing us precipitation through Sunday, so Thursday through Sunday. We can see that for a lot of the Corn Belt, we're going to spend the next several days quite dry, but here down in Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas again, because of that cutoff low, things are looking a little bit wet, so very important to keep a close eye on that. Total accumulated precipitation forecast by the NAM model getting us through Sunday. Again, you can see the same story. Things are tending to stay pretty dry across this section of the Corn Belt, but getting down into Texas in a place that was quite wet last week, we are going to be seeing some more showers and storms, again due to that cutoff low. Down here in Florida, though, something to be watching. We are paying close attention to a little tropical disturbance south of Cuba, and that tropical disturbance might move up into this region. But I just want to bring your attention to a couple of things. By the time we move into October, we really watch the Caribbean, Gulf, and the far western Atlantic for our tropical cyclone development. So remember, we still have a lot of this hurricane season to go, so we must continually watch the tropics. Doesn't appear that this system is going to cause too much trouble, but we are watching the Bay of Campeche and also the Caribbean for development over the next 10 to 12 days, so keep a close eye on this area in the forecast. Well, looking over the next 7 days, what we're seeing is that due to that broader area of higher atmospheric pressure here over the east, things are going to continue to stay dry. Where we do see that cutoff low, parts of Texas, New Mexico, getting into here to parts of Oklahoma are going to be wet. We do see a feature coming through very soon that might bring some showers and storms to parts of Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. And you can see the same forecast reflected here in the next 7 days as predicted by the GFS model. But eastern Corn Belt continues to stay dry, and that's the story I want to keep kind of hammering here. Due to the overall flow of the atmosphere, that's really what we're looking at. So what's going on here? We are going to be seeing a front that's going to move through here. It's going to be after the weekend, getting into early next week. That might bring some showers and storms into this area. And again, hit a region that just got quite a bit of precipitation. So this is a harvest hampering rainfall that we're watching in through here. Now what's causing it is this. Here's an overall flow of the atmosphere through the next 10 days. Let's break this down kind of day by day and see what's going on. By the time we get into Friday, we can see the big ridge building out west and the deeper trough east, keeping things cool in the eastern Corn Belt. Again, there's that little cutoff feature. It's going to keep parts of Texas, Oklahoma, Colorado, New Mexico, and Kansas wetter than average. But as I move forward, what I want to pay attention to is where that ridge goes. This will be a rebound of heat for the eastern Corn Belt once we get into our weekend. But see this next trough feature come in? You see, every time a trough feature like that comes in, it's the zone between the trough and the subsequent ridge where you get your showers and storms. So we're watching this area by the time we get in toward the end of our weekend for the development of a front. That's going to bring some showers and storms into this area early next week. And that front, here it is on Monday. By the time we get in Tuesday, that upper level feature moves through, bringing those showers and storms. Now, what I really want you to see in this animation is I'm going to stretch this all the way out to get it all the way into Saturday, October 7th. You see, we keep seeing the jet stream getting stuck into this configuration where we have basically a broad trough over the Bering Sea, big ridge in the Gulf of Alaska, and a deeper trough over the west. We were stuck in this pattern for the last 10 days. It's going to continue. What's the consequence? It's wet right in through here. This is a pattern that's just going to be producing a lot of favorable upper level support for producing showers and storms across the central states. Whereas the eastern Corn Belt is going to be under a ridge, it means we're going to be warm and dry. So this flow pattern is going to be good for harvest in the east, but not so good for harvest in the central states where we're expecting it to stay wet. So that's an important thing to be picking up on as we move into October. Now, the long-range ECMWF model, which looks out the next 32 days, is kind of putting together this aggregate picture. They're basically seeing favoring, at least over the next 10 days or so, broad trough here feature over the west, ridge over the east, so we're warm in the eastern Corn Belt, and it's cooler in the central and western Corn Belt. And it's not going to be like this every day, but this is the overall flow that the model is picking up on over the next 30 days. So that's important to kind of pick up on. Basically, this means your October, so here's your October forecast. We're seeing a drier tendency here and a warmer tendency in the eastern Corn Belt. There'll be a transition somewhere in through parts of Iowa, Missouri, over toward a wetter and cooler pattern in the central Corn Belt. So be on the lookout for that for the month of October. Let's wrap this up by looking down at Brazil, looking south of Brazil. Over the last 30 days, we have seen drier than average conditions. So we're having a late start to the planting season because we need to get some rain in here to help the soybean crop germinate once it's planted. We've also made note that the parts of Argentina have been very wet, causing some delay in planting there. Well, just to kind of give you the latest update on the soil moisture storage capacity here, we haven't made too much of an improvement in this area. But I want you to see how things have changed recently. This is a new product I'm going to show you here. It's a satellite-based precipitation. And we're going to start it and show you the last 7 days of precip. And I want you to focus on South America. You see, we've seen over the last 7 days, getting up here into parts of Mato Grosso, and even moving down through Brazil's main growing region, several days where we did have some thunderstorm activity. We talked about this, that the rains were coming, but was it going to be enough to really get get planting going? So we are starting to see the Brazilian monsoon bring in some precipitation. That was important to see over the last 7 days, and they need this. But what we do see is that over the next week, the flow down in Brazil is going to be great across what we call the South American Convergence Zone, bringing in quite a bit of precipitation here, which is desperately needed. And so this is going to be a little bit wetter than average time period. That's going to get the soil moisture back up, and that's going to be good. But we're already delayed on our planting, and so that's an important feature to kind of keep in mind as we look at a graph like this. Plus, there are some indications of some continued delays down here in Argentina, depending on the timing and amount of rain that is going to come through. So this is at least a better tone I have for Brazil, given how dry things have been, that we are seeing a wetter pattern establish itself in the next 7 days. So certainly some things there to be paying attention to. With that, I'll go and wrap up the video. We hope you look forward to Agrible's next ag forecast coming out on Monday. To get morning farm report for your operations, complete with a daily email that shows a snapshot of your field conditions each morning, go to morningfarmreport.com. Sign up for that free account. Full grower accounts are free if you sign up for our Sustainable Yield program or for growers who work with AD merchandisers. Thank you. Look forward to talking to you after the weekend.